Hi, good morning. I will go ahead and get started. Finishing off this chapter. The next chapter is experiencing cities. I'm sorry, not experiencing cities. Experiencing. God, let me get the exact name of the chapter. It's killing me. It is experiencing strangers and the quest for public order. Um, and that's the final chapter, I believe, before the midterm. So we got this chapter, we got one more chapter. So the midterm is not for a couple of weeks out. So you got some time here to get caught up to speed if you're a little bit behind. Make your way again to the library to get the text. We'll have a brief session here today closing out this chapter. And as always, make sure you see how they tie together. And please make sure that you're looking at the syllabus so that you don't read any chapters unnecessarily. We're talking about, the skyscraper as a powerful symbol in America and the importance of the World Trade Center. And as you all have both astutely noted, that the World Trade Center was deliberately attacked as a symbol of American wealth and power. New York City is the financial capital of this country and the financial capital of the world. Many people who are opposed to the American value system see these buildings and these skyscrapers as just, a symbol of the excess and greed that they say most defines America's values. Even though we talk about, September 11th, 2001, obviously for good reason, given the carnage that was left there that day. It's important to note that was not the first time that there was an attempted attack. I remember very vividly in 1993. And I remember because the dude who did it, his name was Muhammad, and my friends at the time had a lot of fun with that. Just a small scale attack. I think it was like a pipe bomb or something in the basement. But people have viewed it this way, for quite some time. It's culminated with the 3,000 deaths on September 11, 2001. One of the more shocking moments of my life, for sure. We also saw the Pentagon attacked as well. So again, like we talk about these buildings, kind of like, almost stand-ins for the cities themselves. That if you're ever watching a news show, for example, you'll see like, almost without fail, they'll have like, shots of the Washington, D.C. skyline in the back. The Capitol, White House, etc. So these buildings have a lot of, great importance. In Columbia, South Carolina, the Capitol building, one of the more noted symbols of the city. Because these buildings and these monuments within these cities have such prominence and significance, the military very quickly worked to safeguard other buildings, including Disney World, the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia, the Mall of America in Minneapolis. I think still the biggest mall in America. I've been there before. It's a bit overrated. The Space Needle in Seattle, the Gateway Arch in St. Louis. So all these things, again, there was a fear of the Sears Tower. I remember very vividly, actually, that morning I was in downtown Chicago, and they evacuated like the whole area. It was kind of crazy and surreal, kind of like something that you might imagine in a movie or something like that. So again, there was much debate about what to do after the World Trade Center bombings. And they themselves were constructed over protests in 1973. I'll leave this up for you all for a bit. Make sure, again, you're taking notes on the discussion as well. Again, as we said, was much of this is done, in the name of commerce. And this was the case with the construction of the World Trade Center. And these are the kind of things that you want to know in preparing for the midterm. And that's scheduled for March 3rd, March 3rd, March 3rd, March 3rd. Make note. So they wanted, again, to transform Lower Manhattan into, an international financial center, which they very much did. It was also aiming to give New Jersey port businesses that New York would lose. And it was a lot of, important moments that went on there. One of the more famous one was a dude did a tightrope between the towers in 1974 as a publicity stunt. And after 9/11, there was much debate. Should they just, rebuild their there were many people who wanted to rebuild them outright as a show of defiance. Like, you know what? These terrorists aren't going to, we're not going to let them win. We're not going to let them, change our way of life. We're going to build them right back. They eventually built the Freedom Tower, which has now been completed. Was still under construction at the time of this writing. I'm sorry. And it does include some of the things that I think Deshaun had mentioned in terms of like commemorating the lives of the people that died there on 9/11. I don't think I've actually seen this that building yet. I have been in that area since 9/11. Also very surreal.
How many times you been in New York, Dr. Muhammad?
Say it again.
How many times you been in New York?
Or like 5. But it's been a minute. I don't, maybe like a decade. That's one of the disappointments with the world being shut down now and not being able to travel. But hopefully, I don't know about this summer, but next summer we can open that back up. And definitely, like, again, you all will travel quite a bit in your young lives, both as personally and professionally. And I highly recommend that you check these things out and really make notice of some of these buildings and just really pay keen attention to the architecture. I think that's one of the dope things about, different cities. And don't feel like, and that would even include taking more time to appreciate the architecture and the design of the cities that you come from or live near. There was huge debates after this about, they wanted to put a mosque near 9/11. Initially, it had no controversy at all, but very quickly, the Republicans, who often are opposed to almost everything, began to vehemently oppose such a thing. Again, saying that it would be disrespectful given the alleged Islamic ties to the 9/11 attack. But such a thing, like again, when we look at, there's been no more bloodshed in this world than in the name of organized religion. You can do your own research on that and find out if that's true, but it is. People across time feeling like their God is right and their God gives them a right to do horrible atrocities to other people. There's no organized religion, maybe the Hindus, probably not them either, but there are a few organized religions that have not taken part in this. We do not deny the building of Catholic schools or Catholic churches in certain areas, in spite of some of the horrible atrocities of the Inquisition and the like. And it would be a mistake to only associate, Catholicism with such violent acts like that, as many Catholics have done a lot of good also. And this is the argument with the Ground Zero mosque that again, that yes, those individuals use a perverted form of Islam to try and justify their actions, but that's not in line with the mainstream religious beliefs. This argument did not really gain a lot of traction, and the mosque eventually had to be moved. We'll leave it there for now, and we'll begin on Monday talking about experiencing strangers in the quest for public order. Again, this is the final chapter before the midterm, so please try and get up to speed on the week over the weekend, and keep in mind how all these things tie together. So one of the things that we've been talking about throughout is how after the Industrial Revolution, you had so many people come to these cities, and there was a lot of disorder. Keep in mind, chapter 4 on the Chicago school, it talked about that you had a lot of crime, domestic abuse, just some really dramatic social changes going on in these big urban areas that, made people very fearful and made the cities be viewed as a very dangerous place. And to an extent, they are. What we want to talk about in chapter 9 again is how people navigated these spaces and try and unpack the myth from reality. That although you will have more crime and activity, criminal activity, generally in a city, you don't only have that. There is community. There is peaceful aspects and areas of it as well. So we're going to talk about this in more detail in chapter 9, but chapter 9 only makes full sense if you understand some of the things in earlier chapters. In some of our discussions thus far, I've been a little bit disappointed with our understanding. I think there's been too much emphasis on trying to memorize things as opposed to just really understand the material. So again, if you got to perform surgery as a doctor, like it's not about trying to memorize, okay, this is this, like you just have to be able to know and do it. If you're a mechanic, if you're a barber, I don't need you looking at the damn chart, dog, to try and figure out, okay, am I supposed to do this? You just know how to cut hair, you don't, right? After a certain point. So challenge yourself in this regard as well to truly understand this material. I think a lot of it is pretty straightforward. And keep in mind, we're trying to, we're essentially doing a walk through history. That people, again, when they were very small groups, they began to gather in bigger groups in urban environments like this. The understanding will be able to explain why that happens, some problems that occurred with it happening, and then the responses of people within these cities with this happening. You may have noticed as we conclude for the day, right now in Texas, there's a lot of people without power. We talked 2 chapters ago about urban planning. And although Texas obviously is a state and not just an urban center, this problem reflects a lack of planning. It's cold. It got some snow down there in Texas. It's really bad. In Chicago, Illinois, it got 18 inches of snow this week, dog. Probably gonna snow some more this weekend. City did not shut down. Now, granted, Chicago should be a lot more prepared for that kind of weather than Houston or Dallas. But there are reports that there were things that could have been done to prevent that. And public officials in Texas, they decided to go another way. This isn't just happening as a result of bad luck. This is a reflection of poor planning. It just is. So as we go through this, make sure that you look through this as well. We talked about, again, not being able to have, yes, Charles, not being able to have clean water in a place like Flint, Michigan. That didn't just happen. That's a result of poor planning. Or maybe it was actually a result of very perfect planning. You can be the judge on that. But make sure you see how these things connect and why these are important in terms of creating a social environment. Deshaun and Stephen, I'm going to let you all go. I'm going to hang back and talk with Charles for a moment. Please, again, make sure that you read up on Monday and be able to explain something from the chapter when we begin the class. You all have a wonderful weekend. How you doing, Mr. Kilo? I got your messages and I did get your paper. So yeah, everything will be graded accordingly. You're on mute.
Yeah, because with the Wi-Fi going out, the Wi-Fi just came. I had to end up using data on my phone, so I do apologize for that because I didn't know the Wi-Fi. So I just wanted to make sure I just speak to you and I'll let you know on that. To you.
For sure. Try and learn from this experience where definitely it really sucked. The Wi-Fi went down. But I think the next assignment when it's due, try a way to try and avoid such a catastrophe would be to submit it before the last minute.
Yes, sir.
All right, Charles, have a wonderful weekend, sir.
Yes, sir. You do the same.